breaking free from the chains that bind, breaking free from the Christian programming. So, Christian programming started for me pretty much at birth. The first 5 years of my life, I went to a Presbyterian church. I was baptized at birth. The first 5 years of my life, I lived in Indiana, and I was a good little Christian girl, and I was a whirly bird. They had us wear little cute caps that looked like Tweedledum and Tweedledee. And I learned very early that if I wasn't a good girl, I was going to go to hell, because that's what they teach you. Fire and brimstone, right? Fear. Fear being a bad person, because if you do, you're going to hell. Many of us grew up that way. However, the Christian church did so to keep people asleep, because they didn't want you to know the power that you held within yourself. They wanted you to be afraid of everything. They wanted you to be in control, or be controlled, excuse me. And for most of my life, well, all of my life thus far until the last several years, it was my goal, and I believed that I had to be the ultimate good person, because in the Bible and in church they tell you that you need to be perfect, perfect like God. Well, first and foremost, what they didn't want you to know was that God is within you, and you have the power. You see, if you knew that you had the power within yourself to change your life without an outward deity, then you would be more powerful than they were, especially if you were a good person and if you were filled with light. Others often become jealous of you. And so the Christian church wants to suppress and oppress you so that you don't know the power that you hold within yourself. Now, after many, many, many years of research, I finally stumbled across the seven Hermetic principles, which that is where the truth is. That's where all the information lies, and the Christian church has removed from the Bible so that we would not know that we have the power within ourselves. For many of you out there that have suffered from some type of an addiction and had to go through some sort of a program or whatever, they always tell you, especially in the 12 steps, they always tell you that you are helpless and that you can't do anything unless you believe in an outward, uh, higher being than self, because you're just mere mortal, right? That's false. So they do that so that you feel weak and that you feel afraid of everything, because you are more powerful than you will ever know. So I believed that for most of my life. After the first 5 years of my life, my parents divorced, and then I started studying everything in sight to find truth, because the truths that they told me did not seem correct. And these very narcissistic and toxic people were expressing this fear of God and being a good person, which was interesting because they were far from that. And they do that because they're afraid of you. Yes, they're afraid of you and your light. And if they can oppress you, then they are in control of you, and they can manipulate you into their benefit, for their benefit. So, my whole life, I did lots and lots of studies so that I could understand truths. And then, about the age of 12, my mother attempted to put me back in the Christian church because I was starting to become very disobedient to my mother, because she was a very unhealthy and unwell and mentally unstable alcoholic. So at that point, I became rebellious as she tried to stuff me back into the Christian church, and I would have none of it. Because how could this very bad, toxic person know what the hell she was talking about. She was the furthest thing from godly that I had ever met in my life. Anyone who strangles your pets is obviously not a good person. And my whole life, I knew my mother was jealous of me. She did and said things that were very inappropriate and attempted to dim my shine. When I was growing up, I wanted to be a forestry ranger. She told me that I wouldn't be able to do that, oh, you can't do that. I wanted to be an oceanographer. I couldn't do that. I wanted to be a model. She said I wasn't pretty enough. Every single thing that I wanted to do growing up, she said that I wasn't smart enough. So I actually believed that I was unintelligent most of my life until about 2018. I believed all of that because of her mishandling and poor parenting. Now, not all of those things was she consciously aware that she was doing. It was her own inner demons that were causing her to behave in this fashion, which dimmed attempted to dim my shine because she knew that I had something inside of me that she did not. And as I was growing up, my father also always said to me that I was different. And I remember asking him one time, "What do you mean that I'm different?" And he said, "Missy," because that's what my dad called me. He never called me by my name, Christy. He said, "Missy, you're different than the rest of the kids. Money doesn't motivate you." And I remember very specifically saying to him, "No, it doesn't." Because I knew that money was the thing that people always used to control you, especially as a child. You see, my mother refused to pay for my clothes or anything that I needed, so that I started working at the age of 12. My father paid very minimal child support. I remember one time she expressed to me that he was only paying $147 a month for both my sister and I for child support. And so the money that she did receive, she drank. And so if I needed anything, I started working at 12 and had to pay for it myself, my clothes, everything else. And we received government food boxes. So I was always aware that whoever had the money was in control of my life, right? So the Christian beliefs causing you to have fear because you can't do it alone was a very, very false belief. So if you have ever been in that situation where you have been spoon fed or ladle fed the Christian belief that you were nothing because others had control over your life and you better be afraid that you're going to go to hell unless you're a good person, they're lying to you. Now, will I say that that belief didn't make me a good person? It did make me a very good person because I was very afraid. My life was a living hell. And if I didn't believe in God, then what else was there? And it was hard at times because I couldn't understand why God would be putting me through this. I always believed that God was good and that if you were a good person, that good things would come. They didn't come. They didn't come. I continued to stay attached to the narcissistic people who continued to make my life hell. And I believed that if I was a good person and showed them love and unconditional love and forgiveness, that eventually they would be kind and good to me. They weren't. That was my own false belief. Now, had I learned earlier that I had the God within me and that I was not separate from God, then I would have understood that much earlier in life. It took me much longer to understand this because I believed I was separate and that God was punishing me. I'm sure many of you have felt that God was punishing you. However, these things that did happen to you were to build your character. You see, we do have lessons that we are given in life, and if we continue to choose the same ways that we've been doing things over and over again, things don't change. So I'm going to cut this one short, but I just want you to know that you have God within you. You are not separate from God. Everything and everyone is created in the likeness of God. That means that God is within you. So don't let anyone let you think that you are separate from God. And do know that the things that you are being put through and experiencing are lessons to give you the opportunity to choose yourself. Choose yourself first and realize your own power and love yourself, regardless of what those people have made you believe. You are worthy and you are able to achieve the things that you want to, and you do deserve love and you do deserve stability. As soon as you choose to get away from those toxic, narcissistic beliefs and people, things start to become better for you. So that's all for this one on breaking free from the chains that bind, breaking free from the Christian beliefs. Much love and peace. Until soon.